Namaskar, hello and welcome to yet another special episode of IndiGlobal EduTalks that brings to you deep insights and innovative information in the space of education and skill. And today we are connecting with you from the historic state of India, Bihar. And this episode is much more important and interesting because we are standing here in the land of the world's first international university, and it is not in any European states or other foreign countries, but it is here in India, Rajigir, Bihar. And today we would be joined by education leader, the Vice Chancellor for the Nalanda University, Professor Sunaina Singh.
Namaskar and thank you for having me for this interaction. It's a pleasure to be with you to talk about Nalanda. I must say this is the first international university and in many ways.
Nalanda has been a university of great importance internationally. It has a great history and a legacy. How is the present administration going to restore the past legacy?
Nalanda has an illustrious history, as we all know and acknowledge the world over, because this was a university which was known as a Vishwa Guru, and it had an exceptional history, illustrious history, lasting for 8 centuries. And it survived through the 800 years, 750 years to be exact. The Gupta who started Nalanda Vihara was, to give you a recap on the historical Nalanda University, this was a university that was created by the Gupta Empire, and then it was patronized by many, the royal patronage by many kings. Palas were there, Kanauj, you have again Harshvardhan who has patronized Nalanda. Then you have Pala kings, and then it goes much forward to Shailendra dynasty in Sumatra, because the funding has come all through. They maintained the university, the viharas here, and this lasted for 8 centuries. An institution of illustrious past. Now, the present Nalanda. We must remember that we have traversed through the long corridors of history, nearly 1600 years, because after the destruction of Nalanda, it took years for the new Nalanda to be reborn. So we came into existence by an act of parliament. We are truly international in that 17 countries of East Asia Summit have supported Nalanda in its creation, in the re-establishment of Nalanda. Thereby we become truly international in that sense. The other important thing is, how do we connect the East and South and beyond Asia? That was the parameter of the ancient Nalanda, because it was global in many ways, because the students came from China, from Tibet to Burma to Thailand, Korea. So the students have come all over, the monks who came to learn here. The new Nalanda too is international in that we have students from 31 countries today on my campus. So this is a knowledge center that was created, and my vision for Nalanda is that we should set high international standards in education, and to create and sustain a knowledge that will enable students to embark on unique empirical journey, experiential journey of learning, where field study becomes important, where debates and discussions become important. Thereby, it's a place which is intellectually invigorating and socially transformative. Because I see the new education policy also that we have now through Government of India, particularly in Nalanda, we have embarked on a new journey. And this is an institution which strives to remodel higher education, so that we look at how the new knowledge systems that are created will cater to the requirements, the needs of the multipolar world that we have today. The challenges that are enormous, but for me challenges are both interesting and in providing us new opportunities to rebuild. So my effort here is to rebuild the new Nalanda. And as you see, we are already here. Our courses are functional, the university is functional. It's a misnomer if people think that Nalanda is not functional or up and moving. I think Nalanda is already there now in the imagination of students across the world. The very fact that students from 31 countries are today on my campus shows a borderless education that we are providing. This is knowledge without borders, We need to cross all the barriers, because in today's world, what is important is the collaboration, the linkages that we formulate, the exchanges, the sharing of knowledge. So this is very important, and thereby we are creating a fusion of, or a confluence of cultures here. That is why I call it experiential learning. The university itself is a lab, I would say.
An Indian, especially even me, that if Nalanda wasn't destroyed, it would have been called the oldest and the first international university. Now that credit goes to some European countries, where it is considered the oldest and the first international university. How do you look at it, ma'am? Now the Nalanda is being recreated. Will we get that back or the credit?
In that direction. But I don't think we should have any misconception about, being on par with the ancient Nalanda. Because ancient Nalanda lasted for 800 years.
Yeah.
And in its, after 500 years of its creation, you find that some of the world's other universities were coming up. Bologna was coming up. Al-Azhar in Cairo was coming up. Oxford was coming up around 6 centuries after Nalanda was created. So as the Nalanda University was going down before its destruction, the other universities in the world were coming up. And therefore, Nalanda continues to be in our collective memory as the first international university. The reason why we say this is, it's not just the legend of Nalanda, is that it's not just an ancient institution, but an institution that imparted organized education, learning. And it continued nearly for 800 years, 750 and odd years to begin with. And the hallmark of Nalanda was that it liberated knowledge from the confines of geography or spirituality. Because it was teaching Buddhist philosophy, the Four Noble Truths, the different schools of Buddhist study, be it Hinayana, Mahayana, other Buddhist. Nagarjuna was taught. Nagarjuna himself was here. So we have Dharma Kirti, we have so many important vice chancellors who were called Pandita or high priests of the institutions at that point of time. Oxford was coming up towards, while Nalanda was being destroyed. Cambridge had not come into existence. So you see, world over, the other universities were not there when Nalanda was created. And the preeminence, the legend of Nalanda is for embarking and sustaining organized learning profile. That was the greatness of Nalanda. Fast forward to 21st century. We have thousands of universities today the world over. India alone boasts of more than 1,000 degree awarding institutions over. Yeah? So you do have a number of institutions that have come up. The uniqueness of Nalanda International University is that we formulate linkages with other countries. We are here, by an act of parliament in 2010. Classes commenced in 2014. The credit goes to Sushma Swaraj madam. After BJP came into power, the classes commenced here. She came and initiated the functioning of the university from Rajigir. We are about 10 kilometers away from the ancient Nalanda, a constant reminder of our illustrious past, but in a different international mold today. 2014 with 2 master's programs. Today we run about 20 programs. We are not completely there. A university is an expansive institution. If you think that any institution is already there, then it's a misnomer. Because as an educationist, as an academic leader, I have always maintained that institutions need to be in an expansive mode. We are constantly evolving, we are constantly growing. The most important facet is the academic audit. Periodically, there should be an academic audit. We must look at the relevance of our courses. We must look at how we reinvent them. We must look at what is our research, how do we define research? What is our research doing? We don't have very eminent researchers, on the global platform. Yeah. And those of them who are there are riven with controversies or something. So we need to create a new knowledge system per se. We need to take another look at our philosophy. We need to look at our history. We have not given that much significance to humanities. The man-making education that is important, that Vivekananda spoke about. Science is important, but let's look at the history of science here. So we are doing that here. We look at history of trade, that has been the root of knowledge. So we need to redefine education in every possible manner. Universities are expensive. They require funding too. So we need to look at how do we maintain the global standards. How do we maintain our infrastructure? If we are international, then we are supported by Ministry of External Affairs. We have come through an act of parliament, and we are with Ministry of External Affairs, given the fact that 17 countries have signed an intergovernmental agreement. The commitment of Government of India is to promote Nalanda and to ensure that we grow, we do well. So I have the full support of Honorable Prime Minister or the Minister himself, be it now or earlier, Sushma Swaraj. We find that this university, the very name is magical to everybody's mind. Yeah. So that there's commitment of the Government of India, and there's the aspirational institution where we are trying to create one. Yeah.
The vision that is set for Nalanda, the academic staff and the teachers also play a very important role. How are the teachers being brought on board in the Nalanda University? What are the screening?
Well, teachers are the most important aspect of any university because institutions are known by their teachers. And our Guru Shishya Parampara, earlier knowledge systems, the students were in quest for a good guru. Whereas today we are in quest of good universities. There is a difference. Now Nalanda endeavors to get the best from the world over. But the challenge that I find on the ground here is that we are situated in the state of in Bihar, in a small spiritual place called Rajigir, where both Mahavir and Buddha were preaching and meditating at that point of time. And to get qualified, very good faculty to move to Bihar is a challenge, has been a challenge, will continue to be a challenge until another 10 years, 15 years. So what I have done to overcome this challenge, because challenges are always interesting and we need to ensure that we can turn it around, and my effort has been in that direction. So I thought the first thing we need to do is create the infrastructure for the faculty, for their research, for their accommodation, residence, an academic atmosphere, environment that they need to create. So I look at it as getting a mix of very senior faculty, a few of them so that they can guide the youngsters, and very bright youngsters who are in quest of knowledge themselves, who are thirsty for research, who would like to show the new path to the youngsters. So it's a combination. So we are trying to, so what we do is we advertise for the post just as other universities do, and they have to go through a rigorous interview process where we get experts from outside. There's a Chancellor's nominee expert sitting on the committee, but we also seek from them an SOP, a statement of purpose as to why they want to teach at Nalanda. And how long can they be here. So I firmly believe that teachers in transition are very important for any institution, because the moment you have these permanent, we've seen in other universities, complacency sets in once you know that you're there for 30-35 years. So I think as the international institutions demand that you research, you showcase your work, only then you will get extension. So we have a similar process here. So we keep our faculty, inspired so that they continue to do their research, find new knowledge. They continue to lead the students, and they have to show some research. Only then they get their extension. I think this is it's a very international thing. You go to US, any university, the jobs are never permanent. You have to constantly prove your mettle. I think that's very important too, in a way, while it should not be just a kind of a very temporary kind of a thing.
Who are going to come would be staying for a longer period, so that the innovation that takes place will be there for the students. From the screening of students have been three level of screening was there back then. What is the screening that happens now for the students in the modern and the recreated Nalanda?
What we do here is, there's again a three-layered process that we have for the screening of students, because a large number of our applications come from overseas. And so a semblance of having a very eclectic system of admissions, very, very important. So the first thing we do is we review their credits when they apply. The second level, we look at their SOP, their statement of purpose, which is twofold, in the sense that one, it is analytical. There's a critical analysis, critical thinking. We are looking at what is the relevance of their choice, why have they chosen a certain subject, vis-a-vis another, because our admissions are open. One of the unique features of Nalanda is that our courses are so organized and so established, our schools of study, that students from any stream can apply at any age. So we have global PhD and masters. This is a higher education, postgraduate research intensive university. So we have students who apply. When they apply, we look at their, what is their interest in studying at Nalanda. There are a series of interviews after SOP, their analytical and their critical thinking and the choice of subject. So students from any stream can apply.
Yeah.
A medical graduate can apply and do a course on Hinduism or Buddhist studies and philosophy and comparative religion, or can take a course in Hinduism, can do masters in Hindu studies, or can do historical studies, or can do sustainable management, or can do ecology and environment. So from any stream, be they medical or law graduates or science or arts, it's open to everyone. Yeah. So one feature is that. Two is we look at three-layered, as I said. So we have the credit review, then we have the SOP, which is it's a critically looked at. The third is series of interviews. So they don't get passed in one interview, but there are a series of interviews that we look at.
So it's going to be the same tough, and a lot of screening happens before someone comes into Nalanda.
Yeah. Quality has to be ensured. Yeah. Because higher education is all about ensuring quality teaching and quality students, that they should be worthy students.
Yeah. And back then, Nalanda University funding is very important aspect of educational institution. Back then, it is said a lot of kings or places used to support, fund, and once students used to come into Nalanda, everything used to be taken care of that student. So how is the funding system for Nalanda, and scholarship part, would you like to highlight? What are the scholarships offered to the students?
One of the things is we are constantly compared with the ancient institution. The times are very different. Yeah. That was almost 1600 years away, or almost 800. When it was burnt down, it was after 800 years of its survival. Now, the royal patronage that I spoke about was very important at that point of time. Be it Samudragupta or his legacy that came down, they all supported Nalanda. And then you have the Kannauj king, Harshvardhan, supporting. Then you had Palas. Now, some of these kings also ensured that the 200 villages supported the existence of the students on the campus. Yeah. Through their charity, they provided whatever was required for their survival. With the result that students did not pay any fee at that. The education was completely free. Yeah. Now, as we fast forward to 21st century, 800 years after Nalanda was burnt down, complete free higher education may not be possible. It's not practical. Yeah. So the funding, as the other higher education institutions such as IITs, IIM, Indian Institute of Sciences or central universities are all supported by Government of India. Yeah?
Yes.
So we have MEA supporting us because we have come through an act of parliament.
Yes.
Having said that, MEA has ensured that there are a number of fellowships. Our Honorable Prime Minister announced 30 fellowships for students coming from BIMSTEC countries at Nalanda. The hundreds of fellowships were awarded. Some of Nalanda is honored to have this kind of fellowship. So today we have a number of students. We have ASEAN fellowships. We have fellowship that means 10 countries of ASEAN. The students are supported through fellowship that comes from the ASEAN segment of our MEA, BIMSTEC, then Bhutan Ambassadors Fellowship. Then we have individual endowment fellowships for students. Somebody came and looked at my work and instituted a fellowship in my name for my work done here. So all kinds of endowments are welcome. So it can come in anybody's name. I would cherish it more if it came in the name of our ancient gurus.
Yes.
You know, we will establish chairs in the names of our ancient gurus over a period of time. Now that we have a full campus, that's one of my aims here. Then we do have some endowment funds from countries overseas. China had given an endowment, Laos, Indonesia. However small, I look at Australia had given. So, you know, it may come in kind or it may come in the form of fellowships for students or establishing a library or repository. It can come in different forms because we have to look at the new knowledge that's emerging. So how do we contribute will depend on the new imagination that's emerging. So I look at it very differently. It's not just in terms of money. It can be in terms of linkages, the research clusters that we can develop through countries which can be funded. The research needs to be funded. You know, science, there are many corporates, many people who would like to fund.
Yeah.
But humanities and social sciences, liberal arts, very few people support financially. I think that is where we need to work on ourselves. So the funding as approved by the cabinet is there for Nalanda. We are ensuring that we get more fellowships, more research grants. So that's the endeavor, and I'm sure we will do well in that sector in times to come.
The leaders would be produced, human leaders from Nalanda University. What would be the highlights of Nalanda University campus that's coming up? We already can see certain structures that represent very futuristic. It gives a very different look where culture and spirituality is also being taken into consideration. What are the highlights of Nalanda campus?
Well, the Nalanda campus, as I rightly pointed out earlier, it's a net zero, it's a lab by itself. We have a very unique way of defining ourselves. Our structures will define the kind of education that we are looking at, and as I said, this is remodeling education. It's a university of future. So our structures are created in such a way where we talk about Ano Bhadra Kritavo Yantu, you know, where let noble thoughts come from all directions. So our campus itself is built to welcome knowledge and philosophies that we need to learn from, and how we try and redefine as we keep growing, you know. So the unique feature of Nalanda, the very innovative courses, you know, very different, and we have critical thinking. Our courses are, if you take a look at our list of courses, very different from the usual courses that you would find in universities. Because I personally look at audit the courses, look at the relevance of the courses. We have a very good academic council, helps us in bringing a very innovative, adding to the innovative profile of Nalanda. So the campus structures, actually reflect the kind of knowledge that is going to emerge from here.
Amazing. Throw light on the ecosystem around the campus and the connectivity, or how it is going to be in future?
In terms of where we are situated, and the kind of water bodies, the kind of nature, the green campus that we are creating. So that speaks about the unique transformative philosophy of learning. Connectivity, the only possible connectivity is either through Gaya or Patna. Gaya is about 75 kilometers, about 100 kilometers is Patna. So we need to drive from there. That's another challenge that we need to. I think our Honorable Chief Minister was trying to get an airline closer to Nalanda. That I think government must look into, because if we call ourselves international, we need to do that. We need to do something about it.
Would you like to give any message to our viewers and the youngsters who are looking at their career and future?
My advice to youngsters is to constantly keep innovating themselves, how commitment plays a very important role, how knowledge needs to be redefined. It cannot move in the same fashion and same way. We need to refine our research profile. So students have to be in quest of knowledge, and they need to redefine. Indian engineers have done exceedingly well because most of them go abroad and do well. Today, with our Honorable Prime Minister's endeavor, we do have startups. So I think even students from different fields can innovate and look at how to create new knowledge, how to disseminate new knowledge, how to be relevant to the society and to the future challenges. How do we face future challenges? So I think it's very important to be positive in mind. Life is not easy, but we have to find ways of being positive in dealing with the challenges of life.
Prime Minister, when is he going to?
Nalanda looks forward, and I'm very certain, given his commitment to development of India, growth of India, Honorable Prime Minister will be very happy to, I'm sure that's going to happen sometime. My minister has to take it up. There's a protocol that we need to respect, and MEA supports us, and I'm grateful to both Honorable Minister and the Foreign Secretary and the Nalanda Division that's been very supportive to Nalanda's cause and mission. So I'm working here on a mission mode, and what you see is the development in the past 4 years since I have taken over. I've been running the institution from Rajigir and not from Delhi or any other place. On a lighter note, I would say, or maybe that's my commitment, because I still distinctly remember Abdul Kalamji's letter to the then Minister S.M. Krishna, who said the Vice Chancellor and the Chancellor have to be so committed as to stay there and work towards it, towards the development of Nalanda. And that has been my commitment. I've been here from day one, and till I leave, there will be more growth and development, and then we pass on the baton and it moves on and it grows.